Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudriyat. Shrivatam Svakta Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Kridenta Stalkya Badrani Vidunati Sushtam. Nashta Preshva Padrashuni Tiam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashlokia Bhaktir Bhavati Nishtaki. We will be reading today Canto 4, Chapter 9, Text 29. Maitreya Vacha Matuha Sapatnya Vadpanar Riti Vidastu Tan Smaran Nai Chan Mukti Patir Muktim Tasma Tapam Upevan. Word to word translation. Maitreya Vacha, the great sage Maitreya, replied, Madhua of his mother, Sapatnya of the co-wife, Vagpanha by the arrows of harsh words, Hridi in the heart, Vidha pierced, two then, Tan all of them, Smaran remembering, Nanad, Aichat desired, Mukti Patiha from the Lord, whose lotus feet give liberation, Muktim salvation, Tasmad therefore, Tapam grief, Upevan he suffered. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Maitreya answered, Dhruva Maharaja's heart, which was pierced by the arrows of the harsh words of his stepmother, was greatly aggrieved, and thus, when he fixed upon his goal of life, he did not forget her misbehavior. He did not demand actual liberation from this material world, but at the end of his devotional service, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared before him, he was simply ashamed of the material demands he had in his mind. Purport. This important verse has been discussed by many stalwart commentators. Why was Dhruva Maharaja not very pleased even after achieving the goal of life he desired? A pure devotee is always free from any kind of material desires. In the material world, one's material desires are all most demonic. One thinks of others as one's enemies. One thinks of revenge against one's enemies. One aspires to become the topmost leader or topmost person in this material world, and thus one competes with all others. This has been described in the Bhagavad Gita 16th chapter as asuric. A pure devotee has no demand from the Lord. His only concern is to serve the Lord sincerely and seriously. And he is not at all concerned about what will happen in the future. In the Mukunda Mala Stotra, King Kulashikara, author of the book, states in his prayer, My dear Lord, I don't want any position of sense gratification within this material world. I simply want to engage in your service perpetually. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya in his Shikshastika also prayed, My Lord, I do not want any amount of material wealth. I do not want any number of materialistic followers, nor do I want any attractive wife to enjoy. The only thing I want is that I may engage life after life in your service. Lord Chaitanya did not pray even for mukti or liberation. In this verse, Maitreya replied to Vidura that Dhruva Maharaja, influenced by a revengeful attitude towards his insulting stepmother, did not think of mukti, nor did he know what mukti was. Therefore, he failed to aim for mukti as his goal in life. But the pure devotee also does not want liberation. He is a soul completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord, and he does not demand anything from the Lord. This position was realized by Dhruva Maharaja when he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead present personally before him, because he was elevated to the Vasudeva platform. The Vasudeva platform refers to the stage at which material contamination is conspicuous by absence only, or in other words, where there is no question of the material modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and one can therefore see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because on the Vasudeva platform, one can see God face to face. The Lord is also called Vasudeva. Dhruva Maharaja's demand was for a position so exalted that it was never enjoyed even by Lord Brahma, his great-grandfather. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is so affectionate and kind towards his devotee. especially to a devotee like Dhruva Maharaja, who went to render devotional service in the forest alone at the age of only 5 years, that, although the motive might be impure, the Lord does not consider the motive. He is concerned with the service. But if a devotee has a particular motive, the Lord directly or indirectly knows it, and therefore he does not leave the devotee's material desires unfulfilled. These are some of the special favors by the Lord to a devotee. Dhruva Maharaja was offered Dhruvaloka, a planet that was never resided upon by any conditioned soul. Even Brahma, although the topmost living creature within the universe, was not allowed to enter the Dhruvaloka. Whenever there is a crisis within this universe, the demigods go to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, and they stand on the beach of the Milk Ocean. So the fulfillment of Dhruva Maharaj's demand, a position more exalted than that of even his great-grandfather Brahma, was offered to him. Here, in this verse, the Lord is described as Muktipati, which means one under whose lotus feet there are all kinds of mukti. There are 5 kinds of mukti: Sahaja, Sarupya, Salokya, Samipya, and Sarchi. Out of these 5 muktis, which can be achieved by any person engaged in devotional service to the Lord, the one which is known as Sayuja is generally demanded by Mayavadi philosophers. They demand to become one with the impersonal Brahman effulgence of the Lord. In the opinion of many scholars, this Sajya Mukti, although counted among the 5 kinds of Mukti, is not actually Mukti, because from Sajya Mukti one may again fall down to this material world. This information we have from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.35, wherein it is said, Patanti adhaham, which means they again fall down. The monist philosopher, after executing severe austerity, merges into the impersonal effulgence of the Lord. But the living entity always wants reciprocation in loving affairs. Therefore, although the monist philosopher is elevated to the status of being one with the effulgence of the Lord, because there is no facility for associating with the Lord and rendering service unto him, he again falls into this material world, and his service propensity is satisfied by materialistic welfare activities like humanitarianism, altruism, and philanthropy. There are many instances of such fall-downs, even for great sannyasis in the Mayavada school. Therefore, Vaishnava philosophers do not accept Sajya Mukti be within the category of Mukti. According to them, Mukti means transferal to the loving service of the Lord from one's position of serving Maya. Lord Chaitanya also says in this connection that the constitutional position of a living entity is to render service to the Lord. That is real Mukti. When one is situated in his original position, giving up artificial positions, he is called Mukta, or liberated. In the Bhagavad Gita, this is confirmed. Anyone who engages in rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord is considered to be Mukta, or Brahma Bhuta. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that a devotee is considered to be on the Brahma Bhuta platform when he has no material contamination. In the Padma Purana, this is also confirmed. Mukti means engagement in the service of the Lord. The great sage Maitreya explained that Dhruva Maharaja did not desire in the beginning to engage in the service of the Lord, but he wanted an exalted position better than his great-grandfathers. This is more or less not service to the Lord, but service to the senses. Even if one gets the position of Brahma, the most exalted position in this material world, he is a conditioned soul. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati says that if one is elevated to real, pure devotional service, he considers even great demigods like Brahma and Indra to be on an equal level with an insignificant insect. The reason is that an insignificant insect has a desire for sense gratification, and even a great personality like Lord Brahma, also wants to dominate this material nature. Sense gratification means domination over material nature. The whole competition between conditioned souls is based upon domination of this material nature. Modern scientists are proud of their knowledge because they are discovering new methods to dominate the laws of material nature. They think that this is the advancement of human civilization. The more they can dominate the material laws, the more advanced they think they are. Dhruva Maharaja's propensity in the beginning was like that. He wanted to dominate this material world in a greater position than Lord Brahma. Therefore, elsewhere it is described that after the appearance of the Lord, when Dhruva Maharaja thought and compared his determination to his final reward, he realized that he had wanted a few particles of broken glass, but instead had received many diamonds. As soon as he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, he immediately became conscious of the unimportance of his demand from the Lord to have an exalted position better than Lord Brahma's. When Dhruva Maharaja became situated on the Vasudeva platform, due to seeing the Lord face to face, all his material contamination was cleared. Thus he became ashamed of what his demands were and what he had achieved. He was very much ashamed to think that although he had gone to Madhuvana, giving up the kingdom of his father, and he had gotten a spiritual master like Narada Muni, he was still thinking of revenge against his stepmother and wanted to occupy an exalted post within this material world. These were the causes for his moroseness, even after he received all the desired benedictions from the Lord. When Dhruva Maharaja actually saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there was no question of revengeful attitude towards his stepmother, nor any aspiration to lord it over the material world. But the Supreme Personality is so kind that he knew that Dhruva Maharaja wanted this. Speaking before Dhruva Maharaja, he used the word Vedaham because when Dhruva Maharaja demanded material benefits, the Lord was present within his heart and so knew everything. The Lord always knows everything a man is thinking. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita also, Vedaham Samatitani. The Lord fulfilled all Dhruva Maharaja's desires. His revengeful attitude towards his stepmother and stepbrother was satisfied. His desire for a more exalted position than that of his great-grandfather was also fulfilled. And at the same time, his eternal position in Dhruvaloka was fixed. Although Dhruva Maharaja's achievement of an eternal planet was not conceived of by him, Krishna thought, what will Dhruva do with an exalted position within this material world? Therefore, he gave Dhruva the opportunity to rule this material world for 36,000 years with unchangeable senses and the chance to perform many great sacrifices and thus become the most reputed king within this material world. And after finishing with all this material enjoyment, Dhruva would be promoted to the spiritual world, which includes the Dhruvaloka. End of purport. Om Gyana Timrandasya, Nanjana Shalakha, Chakshuran Samina, Tasmasha Guru Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaha. Namaste Saraswati Guruvani Pracharani Visheshwaya Pracharishta. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gadadhar Srivasadi Guru Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. I humbly bow down and seek blessings from all the assembled Vaishnavas, and thank you for the opportunity to read Srimad Bhagavatam for my own purification. I've selected a few points to summarize from lectures from Paramparam. We are reading chapter 9 called Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home. And in this particular verse, profound, unparalleled nature of Srimad Bhagavatam is revealed. Throughout the world, in all various spiritual systems and religions, people generally approach God because they want material benedictions or they want liberation from material suffering. It is very rare to find one who has no selfish motivation and simply wants to serve. Dhruva Maharaja approached the Lord with a very severe material infliction in his heart. He was insulted by his stepmother and he wanted revenge. He was only 5 years old, but as a Kshatriya, he had a very deep determination within his heart. So he was worshipping the Lord in the forest with the guidance of his mother and the instructions of his Guru Maharaj, with this desire initially in his heart. He wanted a throne greater than his grandfather Brahma. But because he has submitted to the words of his spiritual master Narada Muni and followed the process of devotional service wholeheartedly, hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, meditating on the form of the Lord, worshipping the Lord, performing austerity, so his entirely mind, senses, and words were completely fixed on the Lord. He became so pure that he completely forgot all of these desires. He did not approach the Lord for mukti. He did not approach the Lord for devotional service. He approached the Lord for material domination and revenge, but he was purified to the process of devotional service. And here we find the Lord. He knew Dhruva Maharaja's desires. He fulfilled all his desires, the beginning desires and his end desires. At the end, he only wanted to render service to the Lord as the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord in pure love. He wanted nothing else. He was given that. He was given Prema Bhakti. He was given darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, face to face. He was touched by the hand of the Lord in only 5 months, 5-year-old child. He was given the power to recite beautiful eternal prayers of glorification. But the Lord also recognized that at the very beginning of his devotional service, he wanted revenge and domination, not only over this material world, but over the universe. So the Lord gave him that too. This is what you want, you can have it. Srila Prabhupada explains that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is compassionate to his devotee, and he gives him what he wants. But he takes away everything, family, friends, wealth, so he, in the humble state of mind, could turn only to Krishna. So he cries out the names of Krishna. One who has too much attachment to wealth, material beauty, fame, birth, education, one becomes proud of those things. No one can feelingly cry out the name of God. So while Dhruva Maharaj was given such incredible material benedictions, he was so dear to the Lord. Because the Lord showed his great compassion to Dhruva Maharaj, in the beginning he took everything away. If you take the honor away from a Kshatriya, he has nothing else. Today there are not many real Kshatriyas in this world, but during Vedic civilization, a Kshatriya would live and die for his honor. Krishna told Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that for a Kshatriya, dishonor is worse than death. A Kshatriya would be very happy to die in the battlefield if he was honored for that. But he couldn't tolerate living if he was dishonored. And sometimes Krishna punished people by not killing them, but dishonoring them, which is really torturous. Like Rukmi, brother of Rukmini Devi, he wanted to kill Krishna. He was attacking Krishna. He was blaspheming Krishna. Krishna could have killed him, but he saw that Rukmini didn't want her brother to be killed. So he cut his hairs and mustaches, and he made him look like a foolish idiot. That was worse than death for him. Krishna took away from Dhruva Maharaja his right to be an heir of his father when Vanaprastha at 5 years old. But because he surrendered to Krishna wholeheartedly, he became purified, and then Krishna wanted to give him the whole world to rule over, because he knew that Dhruva Maharaja was spiritually responsible to perform the service without being disturbed. If you give too much power and influence, too many good qualities to a person who is spiritually immature, it ruins them because they start identifying themselves with their role rather than with the spirit of service attitude in which he's supposed to perform that role. The eternal position of every living entity is the servant of the servant of the servant, whoever we may be, whatever position we may have, whatever power and influence we might have. We need to perform the role in the service mode. We need to be humble like a straw in the street, to be tolerant like a tree, eager to offer all respect to others and expect none in return. This is how devotees are everlasting chant the holy name. They maintain this consciousness at all times. We need to remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. I will stop here today. I apologize for any shortcomings during readings and summarizing.